Hey, welcome back to the Seven Figure Real Estate Show, episode 6. We sat with Melanie Crane today, who talked about systems, how she was a six-figure real estate agent within 10 months, and she just rocked it.
Yeah, Melanie was absolutely phenomenal. She made 6 figures her first 10 months in real estate after 0 years of experience. She breaks that down into numbers, how she did it, and how you could do it for yourself. And make sure you stick to the end of today's episode because Melanie tells a really funny story about how she would put pink tape around her cubicle so people wouldn't bother her when she was doing cold calling. So with that said, let's get right into the show.
Hey, Melanie, it's Nick here. Thanks for coming on. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, thank you for having me. My name's Melanie Crane, and I've been in real estate for about 5 years now. Previously, I was a psychotherapist, had a private practice, worked with elite athletes around peak performance anxiety, managing the pressure of performing at a high level.
Sure.
And I also specialized in trauma work with kids and families.
Right.
And so I came over to KW after a short stint at selling commercial real estate and came into KW selling residential. And from that point on, I was able to kind of lean into my desire and passion for coaching and mentoring and inspiring people through creating some content. And now I get to help lead the company and grow the company as the assistant team leader.
So you started selling real estate at somewhere else in the commercial world. Then you came to Keller Williams, and did you come to Keller Williams to find other options, other avenues that you may want to pursue?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, I think that ultimately I was looking for an environment in which I could thrive in a lot of different areas of my life, not just with real estate sales, but also in other kind of professional designations like coaching and teaching. And so that's always been a passion of mine. So when I realize the value of KW and how I could get on a massive platform to be able to do those other those other things and pursue those other interests. That's really why I chose to come over here and just grow.
Right.
Wow. So what you're saying, there's more than one avenue than being a real estate agent to make money.
Yeah.
So could you break down the different types of avenues you could take if I got my real estate license, where I could go with it?
So many things that you could, of course, invest in your own property. You could build a team. My personal pursuit has been, I'm in the process of becoming a certified instructor for Keller Williams University. So that would allow me the opportunity to travel the world, the country, and teach core curriculum to other agents, other leaders. And I also got to, last year, worked on my own content around self-discipline and being an entrepreneur and how to channel, our personal strengths in the pursuit of, building a business and being successful.
Yeah. So I imagine when you initially got into real estate, you passed your licensing exam, you didn't have the, goal of creating this like big education platform in real estate. Was your goal to just make as much money as possible in the shortest amount of time?
Yeah, it's interesting. I really, my first year in real estate, I was also getting married that year, and COVID had hit. So we joke a lot at my house that my goal was to make enough money to have an open bar at my wedding, and in that pursuit, I just executed the plan of lead generation. And so, kind of reverse engineered, I wanted to make 6 figures. And so what did that look like in a daily, weekly, and monthly kind of structure and routine? And then just really committed to following that through with my cold calling and my lead gen and door knocking consistently for about 10 months and was able to, exceed that goal.
So it took you 10 months to make six figures your first year in real estate.
Yes.
Was that something that was kind of like didn't even seem possible?
I cried. I was mind blown. I could not believe it. I had tripled my income in 10 months doing something that I really had no idea what I was getting into. I had never bought and sold my own home before. Didn't even know what a furnace was, knew nothing. My learning curve was really steep. But what I committed to was the activities. Yeah. And I say this a lot, it's simple, it's not easy. If we get really hyper intentional about those, 4 or 5 things that generate income and we commit to doing that consistently, there's no chance of failure. You just have to commit to it and see it through.
Can you break down into numbers and simple tasks, like what you had to do to make 6 figures in 10 months, your first year in real estate?
Absolutely. So, when I first came over to Keller Williams, I was around, people like Nick Danbury and other people who were doing it at a very high level. And so I just really broke that down to the most important income producing activities, and everything else was a distraction. We talk about here, the 80-20 principle. So 20% of our efforts yield 80% of our results. So I got super intentional about what is the 20%. And so, of course, for me, it was cold calling. I didn't have a big sphere or database of people that I knew. And so I just sat there for 4 hours every single day at my office, cold calling. And I made about 75 to 80 calls a day.
Wow.
Monday through Friday. And my reward to myself was that I got to go to the gym afterwards.
That's the reward?
Yeah. So I came in at 7:30. I had pink tape that I put around my cubicle so that everybody knew around me that they couldn't talk to me until I was done. So I kind of built that bunker. And then I just kept dialing. And the big thing for me to approach that day was my mindset. I came up with a couple affirmations and mantras that I would tell myself, because cold calling is difficult.
Do you mind sharing those mantras and affirmations?
Oh, geez. I think it was really believing my value, believing that I was the best person to be helping them. And so whatever that mantra was, or whatever sentence, that I would sit there and read it and kind of instill it into my brain. And it would give me the confidence to pick up the phone and call these strangers and pitch my value to them. And it changed daily. But if I believed that I was the best person to help them, then they could feel that energy on the other side of the phone.
Yeah.
And so, and I just didn't overthink it. I just kind of put my head down and just executed.
Hey viewers, I hope you're enjoying today's episode. Nick and I put a lot of effort into these episodes, providing as much free value as we possibly can. Now, if you got anything out of today's, we made you smile, we made you interested in real estate, please make sure to follow, like, subscribe, do whatever. Your engagement is the only way this thing grows. So all we can ask is that you help us grow this and make it as big as possible. We have a great time doing these. I hope you have a great time listening. With that said, let's get right back into the show.
Where were you getting your call list from?
So on our team, we had this database of probably 100,000 old leads. They were just complete, maybe 5 years ago, someone clicked on a link or something. Sure. So they weren't warm leads at all. They were just a pool of phone numbers. Okay. And, it's a numbers game. So I knew that, okay, if I have to call 50 or 100 people, at least I'm probably going to get one person. Right. And if I did that every single day, well, I could walk away getting 5 leads every single week.
Right.
So it was just committing to the numbers.
Sure. And did you do any other lead generation methods, or was it just cold calling?
So on Saturdays, I would go door knock, and I would go by myself and just, have my little pamphlet, and started farming my neighborhoods. And it was just consistency.
Sure.
In the evening times, I might do a couple social media posts, but I didn't want to use that as a distraction. I think oftentimes we lean too much on, and social media is great. Yeah. But I knew that wasn't going to give me the results that I needed quickly. So that was just like the cherry on top of the ice cream with the social media. So I would do a little bit of that, but the door knocking on the weekends helped.
Okay. What was it like to overcome that fear? Because sometimes, it even happens to me, that phone weighs 1,000 pounds, yes, and I just don't want to pick it up. Yep. I've been at this for over 2 decades now, and I've been cold calling forever.
Yep.
But I'm like, I just don't want to pick that thing up today.
Yep.
So what would you do to help overcome that?
Yeah. So it's like eating the frog first, right? Yeah. So I would make the calls that I really didn't want to make first thing. And if I even gave myself a second to make a decision or have a choice around that, I wouldn't do it. So it was just it was a non-negotiable.
Sure.
When I think of the difference between a goal and a commitment, a commitment, there's no emotion attached to it. Right. You've committed to it. There's over hell or high water, you're doing it.
Right.
So there's nothing getting in the way. And that's kind of how I approached it. And just thinking about, my goal being bigger than my fear of picking up the phone.
So you've now transitioned from an agent into more of a leadership role inside Keller Williams Maine. Yeah. And in that leadership role, your target is to recruit agents. So I'm sure there's some parallels, you're calling agents every day instead of homeowners every day. So when you find somebody that comes onto Keller Williams or somebody who wants to start real estate, what would you say would be the number one indicator that they're going to succeed or they're going to fail?
It's a really great question. And I know we have a lot of, personality assessments. We use the KPA, we have the DISC. I personally, it's great information.
Mm-hmm.
I don't put a lot of weight on those tools. It really comes out in conversation.
Sure.
You can tell when someone's sitting on the other side of the table or on the phone. You can hear their motivation. You can hear their desire.
Sure.
If somebody comes and they have no idea what their goals are, they look at you like a deer in headlights when you ask them what your goals are or what you want to accomplish. That to me is a bit of a red flag, only because I would expect them to know what they want.
Sure.
and know how determined they are to get there. But so sometimes that's a little interesting to me, only because I've never been that way. I've always known what I wanted. I've always known what is required to get there. But
there's a section of that KPA that I actually love when I'm interviewing, people to join the team or, something, just interviewing people to join my team. And I love the section of real estate where of that KPA where you go back and you ask people, tell me about wins that you've had in the past. Yeah. And it's so, when they're telling you about their story, you can find, you're like, oh, you had success here, you had success here, you had success here, so it's like success leaves clues, right? Yeah. So you're going to go down and you're going to go through and it leaves a path and you're like, okay, well this, you've had wins here. So you possibly will have wins in real estate.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey guys, I don't know if you've gotten the gist yet, but being a real estate agent is an amazing career. I recently got my real estate license and passively already acquired a client who I referred and is now in the process of buying home, which I would get a 25% commission check of, which is fantastic. Now, if you're in college, maybe out of high school, maybe you have a career and you want to shift your focus into real estate, we actually partnered with the CE Shop to get you guys licensed. Now, as we grow this thing, the goal is to give you guys our systems for free so you can make as much money as possible your first year in real estate, hopefully hitting that 6-figure mark in 10 months, just like Melanie. So with that said, we partner with the CE Shop. Make sure to click the link in the description and get your license today.
Hey, thanks so much for coming on today. If you want to buy or sell or invest in real estate in the state of Maine, please give us a call at Danbury Guerin Real Estate. Our number 207-553-2400, or you can always email us at team@danburyguerin.com. Thanks so much and enjoy the show.
And I think too, even when you're talking to somebody, I think one of the big questions is how do you overcome disappointment? Because we have so much in real estate. Right. What is that level of resilience? So it's gauging the level of resiliency in people and gauging the level of grit. Yeah. And the way I define grit is passion and perseverance towards a goal. Right. So if you fall down 6 times, get back up 7, and there are people who innately do that. And there are people who look great on paper, but when it gets challenging, they might bury their head in the sand. Right. So those kind of personality character qualities, I think, are really, they identify some clues.
Real quick, what is the KPA? Is it a personality? Is it something proprietary to Keller Williams? Or
yes, it's a Keller Williams test. I don't remember what it stands for, to be honest with you. Keller Personality Assessment is what I think it is. Okay. But it takes about an hour to take, you sit down, it takes about an hour and you fill out all these questions and then it spits out this report. And then what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to sit down with the person that took it and go through it. So you qualify it. You're actually, you're asking you're reading a section of it. It's like, does this apply to you? Do you feel this is right? How would you change it? So you're really going through and critiquing what the system said it is. And you change as an individual. So, the DISC test is a very old test. And it's like everybody's a D, an I, a C, or an S, or a combination of them. Yeah. And, but you change in your life, I've yet to change a lot, but as you mature or things happen in your life, you'll change. So it's actually a valuable tool to take over and over and over again.
Oh yeah.
So you're in the right position.
Yeah. I mean, kind of emphasizing being in the right position is huge. I heard this quote one time, and it's like, in a career, we're like a tennis racket. And if you find a career that you align with and aligns with your personality, it's like hitting the center of the racket. Like it's very easy. The ball comes off accurate. It's fast. But when you align with a career that doesn't, work with who you are as a person, it's like hitting the edge of the racket. Like it comes off awkward. It's not as effortless. And it might not go where you want. So finding, knowing who you are and then aligning with that career. So with that said, what type of personality traits do we want to have as real estate agents? Because someone who's very introverted has a trouble talking to people, who isn't very outgoing, might not be great at networking and doing 80 phone calls a day.
What I would say to that is find what you like, find what you're good at, and figure out a way to get creative around generating business with that. Whether that is, coming from contribution and doing volunteer work, but inviting your clients with you or things like that, getting creative around building those relationships. I don't like going to networking events. I hate small talk. But I would go serve at a soup kitchen and invite my client base there, or, bring them to the Sea Dogs game and things like that, and really develop those relationships, giving back. Those are ways that I think people that don't like to do those overt lead generation tactics could find ways, and there's all walks of life can be successful at real estate.
Yeah, I would definitely, I would want to say that even if you're an introvert, you can still be very, very successful in real estate. Like I would not qualify that you're going to be not successful or successful. I think there's, as you just said, there are people all walks of life that have been hugely successful in selling real estate. So, I as well don't put a whole lot of weight on the KPA because it's just a computer generated tool. But if you put the time in, if you do, it's a numbers game. So if you put the time in and do the things that you need to do to be successful in real estate, you'll be successful in real estate. And that's correct. You find the avenues of lead generation that you like. Like I've never knocked a door and I'm not going to knock a door. I'm not going to walk into somebody's house that I don't know and bang a door and be like, hey, I'm Nick Danbury, and I sell real estate in your neighborhood. Exactly. No, that's not me. No way. So for me, it's more providing value, hitting my network, having people over for dinner, that's my jam and I love it. So, it's all in how you do it, and so what would you say that, we're always talking about, what we're obviously talking about is structure and how to do structure and how to be successful. Would you say that the flip side to that is you're not going to be successful unless you have structure?
I think we would have to define structure, and that could look different for everybody.
Sure.
I think that ultimately, if you're not doing the tasks to generate the business, you won't be successful. And so I guess it would depend on what structure means to.
Sure. So I'll clarify that a little bit more. So if you're not willing to set aside, 2 to 3 hours a day generating leads in some sort of fashion, whether that be note card writing, cold calling, door knocking, networking events, you name it, whatever washing cars, whatever you think it would generate you business, then you're probably not going to generate enough leads to generate business.
So what I would say is it really depends on your goal. If your goal is to make 6 figures or your goal is to make $500,000, then those income generating activities are going to look very different to to somebody who says, I'm okay to sell a couple houses a year and make 50 grand.
Right.
So I think the tasks need to align and reflect the goal.
Are the tasks different or are there just more of them?
I think I think that if you can pick 2 or 3 tasks or even 4 and consistently nail those tasks and whatever that looks, and I think it's absolutely a numbers game. Sure. If you say I'm going to lead gen for an hour and make calls, but you only make 2 calls, well, that doesn't really amount to much. So I think, yes, it's absolutely a numbers game. And I don't think it's necessarily more activities. It's just more time on task.
Right.
Yeah. All right. So you guys are saying that it's very important to have structure in real estate. But the thing is, you come into this game of being a real estate agent and there really isn't any structure that's just handed to you like there is in school. So how have you guys kind of, noticed that people going from a school system of, I'll let you take it from here because I feel like, Nick, you can talk better about the structure going from a school system and the way that we're brought up as just in an American society to something that's more entrepreneurial, like being a real estate agent.
So, this is not a knock on our current school system or our current structure. I have 2 young kids that, one's going through the school system right now, and it's just something I'm very focused on. And, if we look at from the way school was originally created and to now, and we look at all of the innovation that we've had around ourselves, like we don't make phone calls the same way we used to make phone calls. If you look at our education systems, nothing has changed in the 150 years or whatever, some of those that we created this education system. We're all going, the bell's ringing, we're sitting down. So what I like to say is school is creating workers that work in a factory, And there's no free thinking in our current education system. And you don't get rewarded for free thinking. You get rewarded for regurgitating information that your teacher taught you, or a book said, like, this is the way I'm going to teach you, and this is the way I'm going to grade you. So what I like to say is, the bell rings at 8 o'clock in the morning. You're supposed to be sitting in your class in your nice little rows, getting talked to by your teacher or the boss. Very similar to work. The bell goes off at a factory, you get to work. The bell goes off, you get to take a break. The bell goes off, you get to take a lunch. Bell goes off, you get to go home. And then you come back and you do it all again. So when you get into a real estate world or an entrepreneur world, there is no bell. You're not, you have to create that bell in yourself. And so for real estate, you're just not set up from the time that you're 5 until the time that you graduate high school. And then if you want to go on to college, it's a little bit, it's less like that. You get to at least, first 2 years, you have to take these classes, but then you get to start taking classes that you enjoy and things along those lines. So, for people that want to get into this world, we've just never set you up for success in an entrepreneurial world, and it's now what I feel with social media and things like that. People are like, wait a second, I don't need to go work for somebody. I can work for myself. I can create my own thing. And I love, the statement I love is, if you work in something that you love every day, you never work a day in your life.
Yeah.
And I enjoy waking up in the morning and putting my shoes on and coming to the office and making calls and helping. I find so much excitement in being able to provide a profession to somebody so they can become super successful and, retire young or create passive income, send their kids to college. I mean, that's like my biggest thing is like, hey, why aren't you buying a house instead of, everybody, 529, right? Kids born, 529. Alphonse can give you $500. And then if you put money in there every year, you hopefully will have enough money to send your kid to college. Well, how about you buy a house? You buy a $300,000 house the day your kid is born. You make double payments. The house is paid off. Or you put it on a 15-year mortgage. The house is paid off by the time the child is ready to go to school. You've used it as an investment. You get to take depreciation. You get to refinance it. It's now a paid-for asset. You can sell it. You can rent it. Or, hey, how about you buy a house in the college town that your son or daughter is going to school in? And then you're renting rooms out to their roommates, their friends. And now you're paying for the room and board. So to be able to have an asset that's going to create wealth. And, as you can tell, I'm very passionate about it. So we can just get off that horse.
No, I love it. And just to kind of circle back too, I think that, students and younger adults coming into the profession, we talk a lot about being entrepreneurial to purposeful, and I think a big part of that too is obviously being learning based. So failing forward, being okay to look stupid, to make mistakes and learn from those things. But also, we hit a ceiling of achievement with our natural ability, so we have to figure out, okay, when we hit that ceiling, how do we break through? Well, we either use a person, a system, or a tool to be able to help us leverage our own natural ability to then break through to that next level of achievement. And, I think that it all goes back to being super intentional, super purposeful, knowing ourselves, and then committing to habits that are forming our day-to-day, structure and schedule.
Yeah. What I really liked that you talked about earlier, which was you had this pink tape that you put around your office and you rewarded yourself with working out. That reminds me a lot of the book Atomic Habits. And you come from a psychology background. So I'm curious of like what tactics, and maybe it's not as cynical as this, but like really creating, a cue, an action, and a reward in your work life and creating that structure that we're used to just having handed to us from our school systems. But now we're in this own entrepreneurial world where we have to form that for ourselves. So what are some tactics that you've used to create structure in your own life?
It's a great question. So, when I think of my day, I start the night before.
Yeah.
If I want to get up and work out in the morning at 5 a.m., I know that I need to be in bed by a certain time. I know that I have to have my lunch laid out. I know that I have to have my family supporting me to do those things, because it's very easy when that alarm goes off to hit snooze, right? But I also know myself well enough that at the end of the day, if I lay my head on my pillow and feel like, wow, I didn't do X, Y, and Z that are allowing me to thrive and allowing me to show up as the best version of myself every day. And it's not just work related. In actuality, it's everything else that keeps me energized and motivated and focused to be able to show up and do my job. It's getting very clear about those priorities for me, which is working out, taking care of my mental health, my physical health, making sure that I have time for my family, and time blocking those things in, creating a bunker around my lead gen time. So for me, it was that visual of the pink tape to alert not only myself, but everyone around me that, okay, this is Mel's time. I can't bother her right now. So it was kind of a cue for not only myself, but everyone around me to not distract me.
Yeah.
So being intentional about that. And yeah.
So we can wrap it up here. What would be 3 things that you would recommend somebody do to be successful if they're just starting out in real estate?
Learn as much as you can.
Mm-hmm.
Get in conversation with people who you aspire to be like.
Mm-hmm.
And get really clear about why you're doing it, because the days are going to be hard. And oftentimes there's going to be much harder days than there are successful days.
Right.
And it's figuring out how to get through those, having a great support system, and really just making a commitment to not give up,
Right.
and seeing it as a long game, because there's too many agents that are just flashes in the pan,
Right.
where they come in and they, might do a great job their first, second year and then fizzle out. If you can see this as a long game and commit to being a lifelong learner and constantly, pulling in new information, new relationships, you can't fail.
Yeah.
In
That's
my
great.
opinion.
That's great.
I have one question I got to ask. Did you get the open bar at your wedding?
Heck yes, I did. It was a very good party.
Yeah.
Yes,
That's awesome.
That's great.
awesome.
Well, Melanie, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it. I know you've got a time commitment, so we want to be respectful of that. How can people get a hold of you?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I'm an open book. You can find me on Facebook or Instagram. You can email me at melanie.crane@kw.com.
Nice.
Sweet. We'll put all of your links in the description.
That's why I didn't give my phone number. I would be open to that. 207-650-4218.
Great. Thank you so much.
Someone's phone's ringing.
Welcome.
All right. Thank you, Melanie.